Hello? It is like storming outside. Put the remote behind there and get this situated. Do you see that? I went over to Tanya's. We were sitting on her patio talking. Oh, shoot. And, it was like lightning like crazy. I love a good summer storm. And, so I was like, well, I gotta go vlog. It's like 1 o'clock. What time is it? 1:24. And so I got in my car, and I realized that I hadn't, I like turned on my camera and there was no memory card in it. So I had to go back and get a memory card at the house. So I had to drive home, which is like just a 10-minute drive, but I drove home and then, got the memory card, and PP had to go outside because he had to potty. So I took him outside. I think I'm gonna go a different way tonight. And then, yeah, and now I'm leaving. So it's hard to have my windows open in my car because it rains in. So I'm like, but it's so hot in here because I don't have any air conditioning. Today was a good day. But I woke up super late. I stayed up, okay, so I'm watching Orange is the New Black. I stayed up way too late last night watching it. I stayed up till like 5:30 in the morning, if not later than that. Well, no, I stayed up till 5:30 watching it, and then I got into bed, and then I just couldn't fall asleep. And does that ever happen to you? Like you're so tired, but then you get into bed and you can't fall asleep? Oh, that air feels good coming through here. I have like both windows cracked, and it's like there's this little air coming through. I love a summer storm. And it's like storming. It's like been lightning for hours, and it kind of almost looked like heat lightning. It didn't look like maybe it was gonna actually storm. But then I was like on Twitter, and I follow like the local news on Twitter, and it was talking about like 60-mile-an-hour winds and stuff. So anyway, what was I gonna say? So this morning I had set my alarm for like 12:30 because I didn't have anything to do today. I went to sleep like 7 hours, and I got up. Like Alex left for work early, and then the dogs were like barking like crazy, and like at 11 o'clock. So I got up to let them out, and I came back up to bed, and I brought Boo and Tucker, and you know, Pee-Pee was already up there back to bed after I let them out, and I was like, I don't know why, I just had this thought just go through my head. I was like, why do people even care to listen to me talk about this shit? Like, seriously, like, I really appreciate you guys listening to me. I don't even know what is interesting, and not one bit, about my boring ass life, seriously. But anyway, I mean, I just don't get it sometimes. I love that you guys listen to me. I mean, I love this vlog so much. You guys don't have any idea. People ask me all the time, it's like, you know, like, which channel would, you know, if you could only do one channel for the rest of your life, which one would it be? And I really honestly don't know, because I love them all for different reasons. But like, doing my vlog every day is something that I really enjoy doing, and it's like, it's a lot to like vlog for an hour every night or 40 minutes or something, but at the same time, it's like this ritual that I've gotten into that I really enjoy doing. It's kind of almost like the end of my day. It's very cathartic for me to like drive around and just talk. I don't know how to explain it other than that, but it just is. So anyway, but I'm sitting here and I'm like, this must be so boring to people. But anyway, so I brought the dogs back upstairs, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna sleep for like 10 more minutes. And I was like, why don't I just get up now, get my videos done. I can go to the pool and lay out, because it was nice earlier today. It was really nice. It was like 95, and it was like hardly cloudy at all. It was very sunny today. It was beautiful. And I haven't really, except for one day this whole summer, gone and like actually laid out at the pool and swam for an afternoon. And I didn't do it today either, and I'll tell you why. Because I was like, I'm gonna lay down for 10 more minutes, and then I like almost fell asleep, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna set my alarm for another hour. So I set my alarm for another hour, at which point that would have been like 12:45, and I ended up waking up at like 2 in the afternoon. And then I felt like the whole day was wasted. So I got up, started uploading my vlog to YouTube, went and got coffee. I had to go pick up my medicine for my epilepsy. So I went and did that, and then I came home, I filmed my videos, and then I was waiting for Alex to come home, because I was like driving around listening to my audiobook for a while today. And so then he got off at 6, and I was out running some other errands when he was coming home, and I said, do you want me to pick us up something for dinner? And he was like, yeah, sure. And so I said, well, where do you want to go? And he was wanting beef stroganoff from Noodles and Company. So we went to Noodles and Company, or I went to Noodles and Company and brought us food home. And I had the pesto cavatappi. I actually even, this was, I don't know why I thought this was so cool, but like I put, I tagged Noodles and Company in my Instagram story. I mean, I'm sure they have a PR team that does all this stuff, but I tagged them in my Instagram story, and they messaged me and they were like, oh, love it, or something like that. That was my little brush with celebrity today. Noodles and Company tweeted at me, or messaged me on Instagram. But anyway, yeah, and so we watched Just Cavallari, about Kristen Cavallari. I guess it's like her new show or something, where she lives in Nashville. I don't know if it's new or if it's the second season or whatever. Alex really likes her. I could care less. But, you know, he grew up with that whole Laguna Beach Hills thing. He was like their age when, man, it's like really a lot of water on the road. He was like their age when those shows came on. I watched them, but I didn't, you know, I didn't really care that much about it. I always remember this one scene from, like, whatever happened to those people, like Steven on Laguna Beach. And I remember the one guy that, like, he was kind of like a skater, not Steven, but like his friend. He wasn't like a main character on Laguna Beach, but like at the end of Laguna Beach, I think it was the first season, he was like going off to college. And I remember like he was saying goodbye to his dog, and I got so emotional watching it. I was like bawling my eyes out. She said she was on The Hills 7 years ago, and The Hills was on for like 3 or 4 years, which means that, how long ago would Laguna Beach have been on? 15 years ago? Something like that? It can't truly be that long ago. 12 or 13 years ago? But anyway, so we watched Just Cavallari. Are you guys watching it? She's so skinny. Like, she's so skinny. Like, she looks too skinny to me. I always thought she had a very nice figure. There's just something about her that's kind of rude. I don't know. She's not my favorite reality star, to be honest with you. But then he had 2 episodes to watch, and I was like, we were like halfway through the first episode, and I got done eating, and I was like, I'm gonna lay down for an hour or something. I'm bored. And he was like, okay, because he had like 4 shows he wanted to watch. And so then he came upstairs at like 10:30, and he was like, I said, how did you like your shows? And he was like, good. And I said, and see, now he's being silly, because I said, well, what shows did you watch? And he goes, I just watched one show. And I was like, huh? And it'd been like 2 hours, you know? And he goes, yeah, I just watched one show. And I go, well, what was it? And he goes, the PP show on the Pause Network. I'm like, you're so silly. He's like, why can you do it, but I can't? And I'm like, you can do it. I was like, do Boo and Tucker have their own shows too? He's like, no, they're just side characters. They don't get paid as much. So then he was going to bed because he has to be up early tomorrow. And he has an early day tomorrow, and then we have marriage counseling tomorrow night, and there's like a delivery truck behind me, like tailing my ass. And then I went over to Tanya's, and we sat outside and we just talked about a bunch of stuff. It was nice. Tanya's foot is like really in bad shape. She has to go get a bunch of blood work done tomorrow. She's in like a boot right now. Her son and son's boyfriend, or her son Nick and his girlfriend Tia, they are being camp counselors in Pennsylvania right now. And so they drove through and left Tanya's old dog, Junebug, who she gave to Nick, because now June lives in Florida with them. So Tanya has Cash, who's a Mastiff, June, who's a Golden Retriever, or Golden Lab, and Karma, who's her new dog that looks like a huge Boo Radley. She's my favorite. I love her so much. And they're all just sitting there like looking at us. Like she let them out, and then they were like all just like sitting there like looking at us through the door. It was so cute. But anyway, and that was kind of my day. It wasn't really that deep. I've been listening to my audiobook a lot today, and reading some, and I was kind of like organizing my life a little bit today. I was like sitting down, and I was like, I always kind of like try to plan out like the next 6 months of my life, and like what I want to do, and what I'm doing, and things like that. And there's a lot of questions over the Storyteller channel, so I guess I want to explain it a little bit. I had reached out to a lot of people about getting me videos to do for the Storyteller channel, and it will be starting October 1st. I could start it September 1st, but I'm going to start it October 1st, and it's going to be twice a week. I wanted to have enough videos for my first month so that I would just be ready to go for my first month. A lot of people have said they wanted to do videos, but haven't gotten back to me when I re-messaged them. So, and I still have a lot of emails to go through, which I've been doing every day. That's like where my focus in my emails has been on the Storyteller channel, the emails, which is, if you're interested in telling a story, some story that has some kind of learning experience to it, that you think you can make between like 10 and like, let's say 15 minutes long, email me at thestorytellervideos@gmail.com. So, the reason that I decided to move it from August 1st to October 1st is because I haven't really done anything on the channel anyway, so it's not like it really matters. But I want to do the best possible job at that channel that I can. I don't want to just slack something together. So that's why. But then, and you know, it's going to be interesting because that channel is really going to, I mean, other than me having to email people and like watch their videos back and, you know, all that kind of stuff, like other than that, that channel is going to be really easy to run. It'll kind of just run itself. So, you know, I was talking yesterday about doing the review channel on here, and it was interesting, like a lot of people were really supportive of it. And a lot of people were like, you know, on the main channel, on my drama channel today, I also talked about it, and a lot of people were really supportive and said that they would think that would be really interesting. But I think people think I might be kind of joking about that. But here's the thing, okay? It was funny because somebody said, I think at this point you have so many channels, you should change your name to MonnTube instead of YouTube or something like that. I thought that was cute. I don't have a problem having so many different channels, and let me explain to you why. Because not everybody out there watches all of my channels, if that makes sense. So I know that there's this whole kind of, number one. Number two, from a business point of view, if you want to look at my YouTube channels as business, which I guess maybe I need to start thinking that way, but I just really don't. Like, in anything in business that I've ever done, like when I started my practice, you know, everything that I've done, I've gone with my gut for what I believe works. And for me, personally, I think the way that I have done things works for me. And I know that not all of my channels are at the same numbers, and I'm okay with that, because what that tells me is that a lot of people that are interested in the drama are not interested in the other things. But that being said, I have just as many people that watch like my booktube and my vlog channel that don't ever watch my other. Typically, the split is this. Typically, I have people that watch all channels, or I have people that watch like just the drama channel, or I have people that watch like the Peterisms and the vlog channel, but not the booktube channel. I mean, so it kind of segregates itself. And so for me, it works. And that's all I have to worry about is for me. I don't know what other people need to do, or I don't see other people as my competition ever in anything in life. I don't see other people as my competition. I see myself as my own competition of having to raise myself to the highest level that I possibly can. What can I do to be the best version of myself? And it's a very valuable lesson, you know, like, I think if I could give any like advice as far as like business or chasing your dreams and things like that, you know, and I did the whole video on when you compare you lose by comparison. But like you know, before my friend and I were having that conversation, like I really always believed that, you know, like, well, I don't know, or, you know, 15 years ago, 20 years ago, I don't know that I necessarily believed that. But in the last 10 years, I've really believed that, you know, when it comes to chasing your dreams, when it comes to doing the things that you're passionate about and that you love, you don't compare yourself to somebody else, okay? Their journey is so much different than yours is, and nobody knows what holds true for you or where your journey is going to take you. You know, and when I look at my life of how I've ended up where I'm at right now, it's like, if I had compared myself to people back then, like, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Like, when we started the blog, we did the blog the way that we wanted to do it. And everybody was like, well, you need to go to networking events. And we're like, we're not going to no networking events. Okay, that's just not who we are. Well, you need to do this. You need to do that. You need to play nice with all the media people in Indianapolis. We were like, fuck that. We're not, no, that's not what we're about. We're doing a blog because we enjoy it. It's fun for us. And so we've always done it different, you know? And I was really thinking about this review channel that I had kind of fed out. Because the reality is, I cannot start, I don't want to have 10 channels. I just don't. But like, I have a lot of people that will say to me, oh, I'm in PR and marketing, and you know, what you need to do is, you need to have all of your channels on one channel, or, you know, whatever this, and I appreciate people's feedback and all that kind of stuff, right? I think social media-wise, it's important to have most of your social media underneath one thing and be consistent, like same picture, same name, so that people don't get confused about it. Now, the reason why I have a booktube Twitter and a booktube Instagram that's separate is because I feel like the booktube community is my like passion, okay? It's like what I love to do in my like side time, but I also think that it's so completely different than anything else that I talk about that it doesn't really make sense in conjunction with everything else. I don't know if that makes sense. So, like, there's a lot of people that don't read. So imagine when people tell me that, they're like, well, you could have different playlists. Like, you could have your booktube playlist, and you could have your drama. No, it doesn't make sense, right? So one day I'm going to, and I'm somebody that very much shit has to make sense to me. So if I go to somebody's channel and one day they're doing a video on Jeffree Star and the next day they're doing a book haul, that makes no sense to me. It's why things like, you know, 6 months ago, me doing a video called Being a Vegetarian for a Year, I would have put that on my main channel, okay? Recovery videos would have been on my main channel because I wanted more people to be exposed to that. But at this point, I'm like, I don't care if it gets less views. It's not about the money to me. So all of that stuff is going to go on my Peterisms channel because I believe that's where it belongs. Like, that's where it makes the most sense. And then the drama channel is going to stay drama. The booktube channel is going to stay booktube. But I really enjoy doing reviews. I really enjoy getting on, you know, camera and saying, let me tell you about this Mrs. Meyer's lavender hand sanitizer, which is the bomb for $3.49, okay? Like, I was in Memoirs the other night, and this woman was like smelling all the different scents, and I could tell that she didn't really want to hear what I had to say about it, because she just kind of was like looking at me, because this is when I was buying stuff in that section. But I wanted to say to her, I've tried a lot of the different scents. Don't buy the other ones, okay? They don't smell good. this is the one. The bluebell is probably my second favorite, but next to that, the lavender is fantastic because it's a different kind of lavender. I can't explain it to you. It's like a cleaner, clearer kind of lavender. I mean, it smells kind of like, you know, a country lake out in the middle of nowhere that you just kind of happen upon on a road trip, and there just happens to be lavender like everywhere around it. That's what it reminds me of, you know? It's just very simple, and I love it, and it's not overwhelming. But if you've seen any of my rant videos, like my Hunt a Killer Box rant video and that kind of stuff, those would be kind of the reviews that I would do about shit that I don't like. So I would have no problem getting on video and just being like, this is a bunch of junk, don't buy it, this is crap, whatever. And so, like, the more I thought about it today, I was like, okay, Peter, like, if you do this, because I don't really, to be honest with you, I know this is going to sound crazy, but I don't see the Storyteller channel as being my channel. Like, I feel like I'm moderating it and running it, but it's not really my channel. So this would really be my fifth and final channel, because I won't start another channel after this. And I know I've said that in the past. I know I've said it in the past. But I think I really never believed, like, the Peterisms channel would ever take off. Like, I think maybe I thought some people would be interested in it. But you guys, like, out of all of my channels, honestly, out of all of my channels, I get the most responses, email-wise and direct messages about my Peterisms channel. And the second one is the vlog. Like, those are the two that, I mean, yes, I get a lot of people that send me tea, they send me gossip, and they tell me, you know, things to look for. I have a lot of those kind of, you know, people that, and I'm thankful for that, and they send me funny shit. I love that, you know? I mean, because I love that. I love doing drama. It's so much fun. But at the same time, it's the Peterisms channel, like, turned into something that I never thought it would. And I'm noticing that it's kind of slowly growing over time, you know? Like, I don't get a lot of new subs on there a day, but I'm noticing, like, whereas, you know, 2-3 months ago, my daily views of video were like 500. I'm now at like 12 to 1400 on my videos. And I'm proud of that. Like, you know, I'm really proud of that. So it's growing. I love that channel. And so it turned into something that I didn't expect. And then I'm really thinking about doing this review channel, because it's something I think I would have fun with. They don't have to be long videos. You know, they could be anywhere from 3 minutes to 10 minutes, somewhere in there. And just real honest reviews. The thing is, I want to come up with a rating system that's really creative and, you know, different than what everybody else has done. But, I mean, it's not going to be the kind of thing where people are sending me shit to review, and I'm like, I love this Diet Coke. It's the most fantastic. It's not going to be all that if I do it. I mean, it's going to be honest, 100% honest, because I can't stand, I'm so tired of seeing sponsored videos where people just sing the praises of something because they got paid to say it. It's bullshit to me. So we'll see. But I'm pretty serious about thinking I'm probably going to do that. I just don't know when I will start it. I'm not going to start it in September. And the reason I'm also waiting until October is because we're going to be gone for almost a week, going to Las Vegas at the end of the month. So I'm not going to try. Oh, it's going to stop. I'll be right back. We're going to be gone at the end of the month. And I'm not going to try to rush everything together. I'm at a point in doing YouTube where I'm not rushing shit. I'm just not going to do that. Like, if I'm going to put something out there, you know, like, I want to, if it's going to be another channel or something like that, and I got to be able to ask for help too. You know, like Mel, who is my book club assistant, has been fantastic. I mean, she basically revamped the entire book club for me, so thank you so much. We text each other and stuff. She's so fun. She's so awesome. And I got to get a little gift together to send to her. I don't know. You know, I think, like, I have this really weird feeling that 2019 is gonna, like, a lot of really good things are gonna happen for me, and I'm kind of like preparing for that right now. It was interesting when I was talking about my OCD the other day, and somebody commented, you know, y'all know I read all the comments, okay? So somebody commented on that video, and there were a lot of really supportive comments about the OCD. Thank you so much, you guys. I was actually kind of nervous about talking about that on video. I don't know why. And so somebody said on there, you know, I think, Peter, that you have gone through a lot of changes in the last couple years, and you're at a point now, and you have to remember, like, okay, I know this sounds crazy when you guys, like, watch me every day, but, like, I literally have been on YouTube, like, 2 years, okay? BookTube was May 11th. So as of May 11th, I've been on YouTube 2 years. I didn't even have my main channel. I mean, like, I had made stupid videos in the past, but I wasn't posting on it daily until September 1st. So September 1st of this year is my 2-year anniversary. And then my Peterisms channel, I hadn't started yet. And my vlog, I hadn't started. January will be 2 years that I've done it. And, I was looking on there today, I was like 218 days. I mean, like, I have vlogged, you know, almost 600 days consistently, you guys. Like, that is crazy to me. And, you know, when I looked back in the day and I would follow vloggers, hold on a second. When I would follow vloggers like Will and RJ at Shep689, and I'd be like, oh my God, they have, like, how do they, and they were doing like 7 and 8 minute vlogs. And I'd be like, how do they vlog every day and get it up? I was just so enamored of these vloggers that would do that, you know? So, like, I'm proud of myself for having stuck with this. I love it. And I'm so happy, like, that I have footage of the dogs and Alex and I's trips and family times together and stuff. You know, it's like, it's kind of like a living journal to some degree, or a living scrapbook. I think it'll be really hard for me to look back on someday, you know, when Pee-Pee's not here and Boo and Tucker aren't here, maybe, to look back on that. Like, I'm not trying to borrow that tonight, but you know what I mean? Like, I think it'll be hard. I think it'll be hard to look back on some of those videos. I think all of the videos with them in will be hard, but it's capturing a moment in time, too, and I'm so happy I started this. Like, I don't know, like, the connections that I have with people, with you guys through this, and just the being able to have all the memories on here, all the stories that I've remembered, all the, you know, I was driving around tonight, as I was coming back from Tanya's house, I was thinking about what I wanted to talk about on here, and I was thinking about, like summer storms when I was growing up as a kid, and I was like, I can remember, like, laying in bed at night, you know, and had been outside in the sun all day long, and, hold on a second, I feel like this keeps on sliding forward and whatever. And laying in bed late at night, and, you know, my house was in the woods, and so you could hear, like, the wind through the trees and stuff, and you could see all the lightning, and then all of a sudden it would just boom, it would just, like, be pouring down rain, and that's a lot of how it was tonight. And so it reminded me of that, and I was like, oh my God, like, I miss this, you know, like, we haven't had a good summer storm like this entire summer. Well, that's not true, but not one like tonight. Tonight the lightning was, like, firing up the sky. It still is. So I'm just real happy about this channel, you know, that, like, I've kept this up. It turned into something that I never thought it would be. And I think that's the thing, is, like, in life, you gotta be willing just to go on the journey, you know? Like, you don't know where it's gonna take you. And do things because you want to do them, not because other people tell you they're right or they're wrong or you shouldn't do, you know what I mean? Like, I'm not talking about ethical issues, but I'm talking about, like, you know, if you want to start a cupcake business, or you want to start a candle business, or, you know, you want to go work at a bookstore, or, you know, whatever you want to do, or you want to start dressing a certain way, or dye your hair a certain color, or whatever, and people tell you that you should stay weird. And, you know, for me, being weird, staying weird is staying true to my heart and being who I want to be, listening to the music that makes me happy, not the music that's necessarily always popular. You know, watching the movies and reading the books that I want to read because I want to read them, not because they're necessarily popular. You know, and, like, doing those things that make me happy. And I think that that's the real trick to life sometimes, you know? And for every idea I've ever had, I'm going to take this off the YouTube thing for a second, but we'll even consider this YouTube. I'm just going to talk about people in my personal life. For every idea that I've ever had, I've always had one naysayer, one dream killer, you know, that wants to say to me, that's, you know, really, Peter, like, you're going to start another channel? Nobody said it this time with me. Nobody crosses me on my YouTube shit anymore. They really don't. I mean, people in my personal life are just completely like, honestly, like my closest friends, like Tanya never even talks about it at this point. I think she just, you know, she loves being part of it, and Alex loves being part of it. You know, you remember back in the day, he didn't even want to be in a vlog, you know, but like they accept it and they understand it now and they like it. But like my other friends are just like, if we go to dinner or whatever, and they're like, they don't even like Melissa, when she reads the comments, like if Melissa is in a video and she reads the comments, she's like, it's crazy to me how many people like watch your videos and respond to you. She's like, people really like you. And I'm like, is that surprising to you, Melissa? But no, but you know what I mean? Like, she's just like, I think it's so cool. Like, she's like, you know, you really like get to interact with these people like indirectly. It's awesome, you know? And like, they don't really understand it, but like they get it now. And so whenever I have a new idea, they're just like, hey, okay, you know? And like Alex and I were talking the other day about my plans like going forward and what I want to do, and I was like, well, I'm working on this book. I'd like to be able to go places and speak with my book. Like, that would be a dream of mine, you know, that my next book that's coming, my memoir that's coming out. And I think I need to explain this about my memoir too, without giving it away, because there are a lot of, most of the stories in there, I would say 80% are stories that most of you have not heard before. I'm really trying to, because I know that it'll probably be a lot of you out there that'll be interested in reading it, so I'm trying to keep it stories that most of the people that have watched my videos, they're not like, oh, we've heard this story 10 times, if that makes sense. But they're mostly stories of my childhood that then show themselves in my adulthood. And then, like my Peterisms channel, there's a lesson at the end, if that makes sense. So it's like, okay, this is what happened when I was a kid. This is how it reaped, you know, like, showed up again in my adult life. And this is the lesson that I take from that. And that's my memoir. So it's not just a book of stories. It's a book of learning from the things that have happened to you in your life. The things that happen to us as kids repeat themselves again as adults. And, you know, I think it was kind of this cathartic thing that happened to me as I was writing it, that I didn't go into it expecting to do that. Like, and that's kind of how my life has been. Like, I've never been someone that, well, I wouldn't say that's necessarily true. I was going to say that I'm not the person that kind of like plans out 10 years down the road. I mean, when I was working as a tech, you know, in a treatment facility, I dreamed one day that I would have a private practice. But it didn't happen the way that I thought it would happen. It happened very, very naturally, you know, and it wasn't like I forced it. And I feel like that's been everything. So like for me to sit here and say where I'll be 5 years from now, I have no idea. I have no idea what opportunities might come up, you know? Like, I mean, I don't know, you know? There's like, there's so many things I want to do. And yet at the same time, and I don't know, maybe if you're older, you'll understand this. I think this is something like when you're younger, you have like this huge bucket list. And I don't want to talk down to anybody. Please keep your dreams. But I think that as you get older, what you realize is there's a lot of things you want to do in life, but as you get older, it's not necessarily that you know you'll never do them. It's that they're not as important as they were to you when you were younger. You know what I mean? Like, my bucket list is pretty saturated with traveling different places and seeing different things. But of a lot of the places that were super important for me to see when I was younger are not the same places that are important for me to see today. They're not, you know, like, there's a lot of places I want to go today, and mostly they're around beaches, to be honest with you. You know, I love going to the beach and relaxing. I just like traveling, period. I mean, I had so much fun in Connecticut last weekend or 2 weekends ago, whenever we were there. It was just fun getting away and staying somewhere and seeing something new that I don't know. I love that, you know? You know, somebody asked me the other day, I got this email, and somebody was like, you know, you joke about these people going, like, what do you really think about YouTubers who tour, and would you do it, and all that kind of stuff. I would absolutely, if I ever got to the level where I thought anybody would show up, I would tour. I think that would be fantastic. it kind of makes me sad that I feel like some of these YouTubers take advantage of it. And, you know, like the Tana Mojos, I'll use that for example. You know, like when their show is like 15 minutes or half an hour, and then they do all these, you know, and she's not the only one. There's a lot like her. And I know that it's really more organized by the event planner than the person that's doing the show. Like, her job is really just to show up. Like, I'm not criticizing her necessarily as much as I feel like that's about the event planner. But for me, to be able to go from town to town, like if I did like a 10-city tour, you know, across the country, or I don't know, you know, and I got to like be in each city for 2 days and, you know, meet a bunch of people and sit on stage and just tell stories and bring somebody up there and talk to them on stage, you know, in 2 chairs facing each other for a second, and, you know, like, and flip some fans and be funny and talk about some celebrity humor and things like that. I would love to do that, you know? I could do easily, I mean, I do a vlog every day. I could easily do an hour and a half of, you know, of that, and then do like a huge meet and greet, and then like, you know, go out afterwards and, you know, like have some great dinner in that town, meet some people, and, you know, and then stay in a cool hotel or something. You know, I don't need to make a whole lot of money off that. Like, the experience would be enough for me. And I think that's the thing, as you get older, you just don't really care. I don't know, maybe I have a lot of friends that do really care about the money. I do, you know, and it makes me kind of sad. Like, I'm not talking about YouTube friends, I'm talking about friends in my personal life, that they're really very controlled by the money, you know? And a lot of them will say things like, it's really a lot about retirement. And I'm like, I understand that it's important to have a retirement plan. I get that, you know, a solid retirement plan. But like, you're missing out on your life right now. Like, you know, you just really are. And I don't know, you want to enjoy your life. And so if I was going to do a tour and I got to call the shots whatsoever, that's how I would do it. If somebody said, we're going to put a tour together for you, it's going to be you standing on stage for 15 minutes and doing an hour of meet and greets that got paid for, I wouldn't do it. I would say, no, I can't stand behind that. I just can't. Like, it's not worth it to me. If I can't give what I want to give, then I'm not going to do it. You know what I mean? It's just not that. It's not worth it to me. I will tell you this, and I've never really said this on camera before. I've had opportunities presented to me on YouTube that I declined for personal reasons, because I just couldn't stand behind the idea. Or I felt like the timing wasn't appropriate, or because it wasn't important to me at that time, you know? And I think, like, people wouldn't really understand that if they, you know, I've had opportunities in my personal life like that, you know, that I think people wouldn't really understand. But I've always been somebody that trusts my gut. Every issue I run by my husband first. You know, I believe in doing that as a couple. I don't make my own personal decisions. I come up with what I want to do, and I tell my husband, this is what I want to do, what do you think? And if he has any resistance to it whatsoever, we talk about it. And typically Alex is always like, hey babe, whatever you want to do, I support you 100%. We're very much like that in our professional lives with each other. And I think it's important that Alex and I have completely different professional lives. I think, you know, that really helps us out a lot. But how did I get talking about all of this? I don't even know. From summer storms to all of this. It's just all of it so much fun to me, you know? And like, you never know what's gonna happen. You never do, you know? Like, I'm just kind of riding the YouTube fun right now, because the reality is, you don't know. Like, 6 months from now, all my shit could be completely dead. Or 6 months from now, my channels could, you know, quadruple in size. You never know. You never know what's going to happen. You never know who you're going to meet. You're never going to know what I'm going to start or what I'm going to do different on a channel. Like, I mean, I don't plan on changing anything on my channels consistently right now, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, you never know. I mean, if you work somewhere and let's say all of a sudden, like, here's how I became, okay, you guys, this is an interesting story. So, when I was working at the treatment facility that I worked in, like, I wanted to be a counselor there. Like, that was important to me. I wanted to be a counselor there in that treatment facility, because that was the treatment facility that I had gone through. Well, I was nearing graduating with my master's degrees, and there was no position open. There was none. But I had been so dedicated to that place, and they know it. Like, I don't think you could really ever understand how close of a team we were. Like, we were extremely close as a team. Extremely. Like, at people's having their babies and, you know, weddings. And I mean, there was only like 6 to 10 of us on a team at any given time. And like 6 of us were together for 13 years. So, I mean, it was that I was there, you know? So it was we were extremely close. And, when we were getting, the woman that had been, the supervisor, not of the program, but of like the techs, when I started there, she had become a counselor. Well, she was pregnant. And so they did a lot of downsizing, and they got rid of some people that, like, didn't have, like, they had to downsize financially. Today, the program is just soaring. It's great. It's got a lot of grant money and things like that. But back then, it was really struggling. And they called us into a room one by one, and said whether or not we were going to be able to keep our jobs. And I knew, like, I was scared to death, because I'm like, I'm graduating. There's no position for them to move me in. At the time, I was the supervisor of the techs, because the woman that had been, she had gone over and become a counselor. Well, I knew they weren't going to keep me in that position. And so I didn't know what was going to happen. And they called me into a room, and I'll never forget, it was the HR director, and it was my supervisor, and this woman that was pregnant, who was like one of my very dearest friends, and my supervisor, one of my very dearest friends. We talked every night on the phone, and they said, we would like to offer you a position as the liaison between the Department of Corrections and the treatment programs. And I was like, what? And they were like, yeah, until she goes on maternity leave, and then when she goes on maternity leave, you'll take her position over, and then when she comes back, she's going to supervise the techs. I was like, there's a position for me, and they said, we believe in you so much that we created a position for you, and you're so good at doing off-site assessments for detention centers. I was like, what? Because I would go into detention centers and jails, and I would, like, so if somebody there was looking at possibly going to, like, residential treatment instead of going to jail or detention, like, or, you know, Indiana boys school or girls school or prison or whatever, I would be the one that would do the assessment. I could not believe it. I was so excited. So you never know, like, you know, in your moments of, like, worst turmoil, something may be presented to you. I mean, I was terrified. I thought, what am I going to do? I'm not going to have a job. I don't know how I'm going to pay my bills. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I got presented this job that I ended up doing for like 4 or 5 months that I loved. I mean, when I look back on that career, that was one of my favorite positions I ever held. And I held about every position in that treatment program. I mean, I worked on every unit in that treatment program. Every unit I worked on at one point or another. I knew that treatment program more than anybody that's ever worked there, probably. I mean, seriously. And that was my favorite job. And I would drive around. I listened to Patricia Cornwell novels on audio tapes. I listened to audio tapes back then. And, you know, I'd stop places and get a sandwich and drive. And I went all over the state of Indiana and elsewhere too. Kentucky, you know, Ohio. I went all over, and I went into these jails, and I was a cute little thing back then. I had a faux hawk, you know, with it shaved on the sides, a little faux hawk. And I'd go in my little polo shirt and khakis, and, you know, I had this little Abercrombie, like, briefcase bag that was blue, and I'd go into these women's prisons and shit. My God, these women's jails, and they'd hoot and holler at me. Oh my God. But, you know, one of the things I loved about it was that like, I'm meeting with people that, like, this was their third, you know, like, Indiana's a third strike, you're out state, which means that if you get arrested for DUI more than 3 times, you lose your license for life, period. And, you know, I was meeting with a lot of people that they were looking at going, like, if they didn't complete treatment, they were looking at going to jail, prison, or Indiana boys school or girls school for a long time. I'm talking years. And, so, you know, I'm sitting there and I'm their only hope. and they're being as honest as they possibly can with me, and to look at somebody in their face and to hear about their life and their struggles that they've gone through, you know, and to see that just because of maybe a few different things of how my life turned out and how their life turned out, that we ended up in different places, you know, like, you start seeing people on a very, very human level. You start judging people less. You start realizing that all of us out there do the best that we can possibly do in life. You know, life's a struggle, period. We do the best that we can do. There's no trick to it. There's no magic to any of it. All of us are, you know, born into these conditions, and we have shit that happens to us in life. A lot of it good, a lot of it bad. And it's what we do with it. It's how we react to it. And some of us use it as excuses, and some of us rise above it and become stronger. But I do think to rise above it and become stronger, you have to be taught to do that. You know, that was something I had to be taught, to not become consumed with these things that were horrible that had happened to me in my life. That part of my career was really a blessing. I got to work with probation officers in almost every county in the state of Indiana. I worked with judges on a state and county level. I worked with the Department of Corrections. I worked with the parole board. I worked with, you know, juvenile probation officers, adult probation officers. Let's just say I'm pretty heavily loaded on the friendship side with police officers and the Department of Corrections in the state of Indiana. I learned that justice works, you know, sometimes. But I learned that if you break the law, justice is gonna come at you, you know? And that was something hard that was a hard pill that I had to swallow sometimes, was that, like, you know, it's not always my job to make sure that justice happens. You know, sometimes I'm just part of a bigger picture. And, you know, I also remember thinking to myself, I used to talk about this a lot. It's gonna stop here in about a minute. I used to talk about this a lot, that, like, you know, like, if you drink and drive and you get arrested, the justice system will work. Like, you will suffer consequences for that. But there are a lot of people that will get away with shit that they do, and they will never suffer a consequence in their life. And I had to realize at some point that that's not my journey, that's theirs, you know? No matter how much I might want somebody to suffer a consequence, that's not my journey, that's theirs. And you know what? By not suffering a consequence, they may be suffering more than if they had suffered a consequence. I'm gonna stop this real quick because it's about to stop. And I don't know if that makes any sense, but what I mean by that is, I think those of us that suffered consequences and were given opportunities to change our lives, you know, I was watching, I think it was Orange is the New Black that I was watching, that I heard this in. Are you guys watching the season? I don't want to ruin it for you, so I won't tell you who it is that says it. It was Orange is the New Black. But they're discussing, it's two people, and they're discussing that somebody can't change. And this guy says, all of us are one choice away from a major change in our life, or something like that. And I was like, damn, that is so true, you know? Like, any of us is one difficult choice away from having a completely different life. All you have to do, you know, is take a look at what you have to fix in your life. Be honest enough with yourself to be willing to do that, and then take action. It's not that difficult. Things will change for you positively. But if you refuse to ever take a look at what your part is in things, you are just gonna forever be on this gerbil wheel of negativity, you know? And I think that's what happened to me when I got sober, was I think that I was forced to look at all this shit in my life that was based in selfishness and self-centeredness, you know? All of this, my addiction, my family shit, the blaming that I did, everybody's always out to get me. I played the victim like nobody's business, and I thought, and this wasn't any therapy session, this wasn't any group session, this wasn't any 12-step meeting. This was me sitting on my couch in my apartment, smoking a cigarette, thinking to myself, having a cup of coffee, what is playing the victim getting you? What is blaming other people for life conditions getting you? Look how far it's gotten you so far. You're a mess, you know? And I'm like 30 days sober thinking this. You know, what has not taking responsibility for your actions done? What has being selfish and self-centered done for you? Nothing. Maybe I ought to try something different. Maybe I ought to try to be a different person. Maybe I ought to start taking some responsibility for my actions. Maybe I ought to do the hardest thing I've ever done and own up to my shit. And I believe that everybody out there knows what their shit is. I believe that everybody knows what their issues and their shit is. You know, that everybody knows these are the things I've got to work in my life. You know, so I did that, you know. It was hard. I had to start making amends to people. You know, not right then, but when I got to the amends process, you know, a couple months down the road, I had to look at people and take responsibility for my actions and say, I wronged you. Like, I stole from you. I lied about you behind your back. I was a bad person. I had to take responsibility for that, because if I hadn't cleaned up the wreckage of my past, I couldn't go on with a clean streak. And a lot of people just want to forget that part, you know? They don't want to clean up that part. They just want to go on and say, well, I'm a different person. Well, how did you get there? Show us how you got there. You know, show yourself how you got there, because that's really all that matters in the end. And I did that, you know? And I took that difficult choice that changed my life drastically, that I can sit on video today and say I have a life beyond my wildest dreams. I wouldn't have this life today if I hadn't done that. Even if I wasn't drinking and using drugs, even if it wasn't about any of that, I wouldn't have the life that I had today. Because I'd be living inside with so much bitterness, anger, resentment, and, you know, victimization, blame. I would have all of that in my head and feel so righteous and so entitled that if you had my life, you would be pissed too. Well, who is that helping? It's not helping me. I'm not gaining anything off that, you know? I think truly in life we are bound, you know, by all of this shit that we have done to other people and shit that's happened to us and circumstances in our life, like these, you know, chains. And once we start talking about it, it's like one chain goes away and then another until we're free. And I would sit across from these people, you know, doing these assessments, these evaluations, and all they want me to say is, yeah, you're appropriate for, you know, residential treatment. And, but here was the trick, okay? It wasn't just me saying that they were appropriate. It was that each county only had so much money for so many placements. So, because if the court said that somebody needed residential treatment, then the court had to pay for it, okay? Which then they would get a reduced rate. We had like a residential rate per the county. So they were really wards of the state until they completed treatment, adult or adolescent. But if the state ordered it, then the state typically paid for it. And always, if they were adolescents, that always happened. With adults, if they could show that they had the money to pay for it, then they had to pay for it. But when you're talking about a year of treatment, who can pay for that? You know what I mean? So they were just like looking at me like they were willing to lay it all out at that point. I mean, the things I heard sitting in those rooms, you know, in jails and detention centers, and would break your heart. I mean, it just would break your heart. And I just so bad wanted to say to these people, you're the thing that stops you from having the best life that you possibly can. Do you see that? Like, it's not even really about treatment, you know, it's you. Like, you stand in the way of that. And I guess maybe that's what I should say to you, you know, if you're somebody that blames everybody in your life, if you're somebody that takes no responsibility, if you're somebody that's selfish and self-centered, and only you know if that's true, if you're somebody that harms other people directly or indirectly, knowingly or unknowingly, A, stop the behavior, B, start cleaning it up. You know, when you start cleaning up relationships, some miraculous shit happens. Some of those relationships are repaired, you know? And then you become a better person, you have peace of mind. And you start feeling better, you know? Not just inside, but physically as well, you know, and you want to live a better life because now you have something to live for. I wish that for everybody. I really do, you know. My mom was somebody that really, really struggled a lot blaming people in her life. You know, I think for a very long time, it was easy for her to, like, you know, victimize herself as, you know, the first Mrs. Monn, and, you know, that my dad had left her, and I don't know that she really ever got over that, you know, that she didn't think there was something wrong with her, or like, you know, why would, you know, I tried to be the most perfect version of myself that I possibly could be when, I mean, let's be for real, okay? You know, and then she's like, why would he ever leave me, you know? Like, she struggled with that, like, a lot of her life. She struggled with that. And I've talked a lot about that on here, about how my dad, you know, went in and she was in a coma at the end, but he went in and talked to her the day that she passed away. And I don't want to get into that today. I've talked about it before. It always gets me real emotional. But, you know, like, what does that do? I said to my mom one time, you know, she said something about, like, I want to know, like, what I did wrong. And I said, I think you need to stop asking yourself what you did wrong and start asking yourself what you have learned from this situation. I think at some point you got to realize you're going to learn a whole lot more than you already know about shit, you know? And it's like, it's just not that deep. It's hurtful shit that people do to each other. But at some point, you gotta say, you know what, I'm not gonna let this take me down anymore. I deserve to have a great life. She did. My mom did the last, you know, I mean, she really did the last 10 years of her life. She was able to, I think, like, okay, my stepmom is not the person that my dad, like, when my dad left, he was, like, in love with somebody else. He wasn't having an affair, but he was in love with somebody else. But that wasn't my stepmom. Had that been my stepmom, I think my mom would have really never gotten over it. My dad met my stepmom, like, after they were separated. So my mom was really, like, she didn't like my stepmom at first, but later, like, when I was in high school, like, they got along because they communicated about me. And my mom really respected my stepmom because she never tried to take her place, if that makes sense, which I think is important. Like, she never tried to be my mom, you know? And I think my mom knew that, and she was never threatened by her. And even though my mom, I think, later in her life always wanted to know, like, why my dad left, I think she knew. I mean, I think she knew that they had fallen out of love. There wasn't really anything in there anymore, but, like, I think my mother was somebody on a faith level, took her vows so seriously that no matter what, she would have stayed married, you know, like, so I think she always struggled with that. Plus, my mother, in many areas of her life, played the victim, not just with my dad, you know. I talked about that in my Peterisms video today, about my mom guilt-tripping me, you know, about not seeing her enough. You know, I mean, it was always about my mom and, like, you know, somebody doing her wrong. And she kind of would go, and this is where a lot of the mental illness came into it too. She'd kind of go through phases, you know. There would be phases where she could totally see it. You know, she'd be like, you know, I talked in there today about how she would be like, when I said to her, I'm not responsible for your happiness, and she looked at me and she said, do you think I think that? No, she didn't think that I was responsible for her happiness. It hurt her to see, you know, that I didn't come over there very often, you know. Yeah, somebody commented on that video today and said, you know, like, I miss my daughter, I want to see her, and I just don't get to see her enough. How do I know if I'm guilt-tripping her and whatever? You have a conversation with her, and you say, I love you, I just like to see you as much as possible. And my mom did, look at how short I seem in this thing tonight. That did become kind of our conversations through the years, you know? And it seemed less guilt-trippy to me. You know, you say to her, I just love you, I want to see you as much as possible, but I understand that you're busy. Do you feel like I'm guilt-tripping you? And if your child says to you, yeah, I do, then say, well, what can I do to not guilt-trip you, you know? And respect what they say. That doesn't mean that you don't have a right to see your child. You have a right to see your child. It was weird. It was like when I read this message, it was almost like it was like my mom talking to me. It was like something that she would have said to me, you know? And I think it's okay to want to see people in your life and want to have expectations for them, but to make them feel bad about not meeting those expectations. I don't know. Be honest with them, but that doesn't mean that you have, if you want, Tony and I were just talking about this tonight in reference to another friend of ours. It's like, if you want something from me, ask. Like, you know what I mean? Like, don't just assume that I should know what you want. This stupid, everything is sliding back here. Don't just assume that I should know what you want. Ask me for it. You know what I mean? Tell me how you feel. I may be more than willing to bend over backwards to give you what you want, but ask me, you know, for what you want. It's not that deep, you know? Like, hey, we're friends, we're family, like, go there with me, have that conversation. How long have I been vlogging now? Okay, 24 and 24 is 48. I ain't got my glasses on, I can't do math. 48 plus, I love when these people have these like trash bag rain jackets on that you can see through, like they're at a concert or something. It cracks me up. 48 and 48, and then what is this gonna be? Oh, like 14 minutes. So 48 and 48 is 58, an hour and 2 minutes. I'm gonna get something to drink. This Diet Coke is nasty. I encourage anybody out there, you know, to, and this isn't preachy, this is because this is what helped me in my life, you know, be honest with yourself about your behaviors, and especially in response to other people. You know, do you play the victim? Do you feel like you blame other people for things? If you do, like, what's it getting you? Like, the way that look at your life. Oh my God, they have a summer edition coconut berry Red Bull. If I liked Red Bulls that much, I'd drink one. I only drink them when we go to like music festivals and stuff. But you know, in your situation, ask yourself, like, on a daily basis, like, am I happy today? And then, like, if it's consistently, no, I'm not happy, and it's not clinical depression, okay? Because that's different. You may need to see somebody and talk to somebody about that. But if it's not that, you know, it's not this depression that you can't get out of, but it's really about the condition of your life, and you hear yourself in your head saying things like, well, if so-and-so hadn't done this, and if so-and-so hadn't left me, and if my mom this, and if my dad that, and, you know, as a result, you haven't treated people really nice in your life either, or, you know, you've hurt other people, then I think that what you have to take a look at that is and say, am I really happy living my life the way that I am? Like, what could I change about that? Maybe I need to change the way that I look at life. Maybe I need to have a little bit more gratitude in my life. Maybe I need to take responsibility over the things that I've done. I can't control what other people do. I can't control if other people take responsibility over their shit, but I can take responsibility over my shit, you know? And not even, I'm gonna take responsibility and wait for them to take theirs. Just take responsibility because you want to, for you know? And then you do that, and you stop blaming people because you realize maybe shit in life happens for a reason sometimes, you know? And then over time, after you do that, day by day, not like you just make this major change and get it, because it's hard. It's really hard, you know? Man, when I got sober, I was blaming everybody in my life, you know? My dad had done this to me, my stepmom had done this to me, my mom had done this to me, all of my friends had fucked me over. Like, you didn't know, like, what had happened to me. I had boyfriends that just, like, they took advantage of me. You know, it was always somebody else's fault. And then one day I realized, well, I'm the common denominator here. You know what I mean? Like, I'm the one that's blaming everybody else. They're having pretty good lives. And so I think that you have to really be able to look in the mirror and own it. And I think people that lack emotional development, which I really did at that point, I think are people that can't take any ownership over shit like that whatsoever. And they probably will live pretty miserable lives for a long time. I don't want to live miserable today. I want to be happy. And if the road to happiness is owning my shit, taking responsibility when I hurt somebody, or taking responsibility when I do something that I shouldn't, you know, making up for the wreckage of my, you know, all of that kind of stuff, which is just, it's recovery stuff that I've learned. But you don't have to be in recovery to behave this way. It's shit that we learned when we got on the bus for kindergarten. I kind of joked about this in my video the other day, but it's true. You know, it's like, you know, if you, like, hit somebody by accident, you say, I'm sorry. Or if you hit them on purpose, you say, I'm sorry, you know? If you steal or take something from somebody, you pay them back, you know, and make it right. It's just, this stuff is not that deep, you know? And, I don't know. How did I even get talking about this tonight? I see people struggle a lot with being kind of like, you know, that's 12:30. I see people struggle a lot with happiness. And like, that's a pretty, I guess I'm talking about it because that's a pretty common email that I get. It's like, I feel really stuck and I don't know how to get out of this, you know, like this, and, you know, and I'm like, okay, even if you have to get out a pad of paper, sit down and write down, like, all the shit in your life that bothers you, and then take a look at it and go, what do I have control over? And maybe that's where you start, you know, because we can only change the things that we have control over in our lives, you know. I can't change people, places, and I mean, I can change people, places, and things around me, but I can't change how other people act, you know what I mean? I can't change what other people do or say. I don't have any control over that. But I can change those things within myself. And then that is the road to happiness, peace, and serenity. And don't you want that? Like, I mean, I want that for all of you out there. Like, that's what I want, you know? And so when I see somebody that has, like, that inner peace and serenity, you know? Like, you can just tell they have it. Do you ever know people, like, it often happens to me with, like, women that are, like, 60, and they just have, like, this absolute grace, you know, across their face, and I, like, look at them, and I'm just, like, and I'll talk, like, with friends of mine, I'll say, like, how do you get this serenity? Like, where do you find it? And they're, you know, and I ask people, like, how they find it, you know, and they're like, well, I just try to be the best version of myself on a daily basis that I can, and, you know, it's just not that deep, and it really isn't. It's like, we learned this stuff, like, a long, long time ago, so... Anyway, you guys, I love you, and I'm gonna go in here and get maybe a Gatorade or something, and then go home to watch Orange Is the New Black, and I will see you tomorrow. I love you. Bye.